How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States, and it is an open line Friday. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am delighted to have you. If you text ENGAGE to 33777, ENGAGE is the word. Text it to 33777. I'm going to send you back a link. That's to the reservation page for the gathering. You can see the full agenda. There are some speakers, because of security arrangements and stuff, we can't announce yet. But most of them we can. It's a great lineup, from a former vice president to a bunch of sitting governors, senators, congressmen, candidates for office. It's going to be a fantastic time. And it's August 8th, 9th, and 10th in Atlanta. Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, is actually going to come hang out with the crowd, not sit on stage, but be with the crowd, and have a Q&A with me at the welcome reception the night of the 8th. If you're a young professional, you'll see a discount code box when you click the registration link. Put in YR, and you get a massive discount to be able to come. An attendee from last year is subsidizing the cost for younger participants to come. So if you're a young professional, if you text ENGAGE to 33777, click the link, buy a ticket, you'll see a promo code box. Put in YR, the letters YR, and you'll get a massive discount on the ticket, and you'll be able to come to the gathering and see all this. I'm looking forward to having everybody there. It's in a few weeks. We have to cut off registration because security's got to run the list and all that. But it'll be a fun time. Now, it's time to talk about Donald Trump's speech. It was interesting. I'll give you my thoughts. A lot of people are saying, first of all, objectively, it was the longest convention speech ever, and I do think it went too long. It, to me, seemed like he was trying to have the rally he wanted to have on Saturday. By the end, he completely went off teleprompter. Notably, here's a little fact for you. The actual speech as delivered to the media was 4,000 words. He spoke 12,000 words. So he went 3 times longer than intended, and it was a very, very long speech. I think most normal people. Now, some of you will claim yourself as normal, and you're not. You're listening to me on talk radio on a Friday afternoon. But nonetheless, don't tune out now. I'm normal, better flip it off. Erickson says otherwise I'm not normal. No. Most normal people, I don't know that they watch political conventions, and to the extent they watch Trump's speech, they wanted to hear about the shooting. He talked about the shooting. He honored, very touching. They brought out the uniform and helmet of Corey Comprador. He kissed the helmet. By the way, MSNBC was peddling a conspiracy that it wasn't actually his uniform because the last name was misspelled. But if you saw his uniform when the fire station set it up after he died, that is the uniform with the misspelling there as well. The A is not there. It was a very touching moment. Donald Trump was very somber, very slow in his delivery, very tempered. And I think when people heard him talk about being shot and kissing the helmet and thanking the Secret Service agents who were with him, among other things, I think people were like, okay, I can go to bed now. And they didn't stay for the rest of it. Had they stayed for the rest of it, it was a roller coaster of a ride. And it kind of went downhill, honestly. It was a unifying beginning of the speech, and it was at the end of it, it just kept going. Even people in the crowd were getting restless. A buddy of mine was in the crowd, and I woke up to his text message wanting to know if I was still up. Nope, I had gone to bed by then. Saying that he was standing in the crowd and people were starting to look at their phones and people were already leaving. The balloon drop hadn't even happened yet, and people were starting to get up and leaving, figure they might as well avoid the crowd. But this is some of it.
We must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Feeding off the crowd after that somberness. Everybody cheering him. He fed off the crowd a lot last night. Some of his most off-scripted moments. Can you all just imagine the hangover the teleprompter operator must have this morning after having to get through that? He probably badly needed a whole bottle of bourbon or something after that. And you would have these just wild, off the teleprompter, unscripted moments from Trump, and then he'd get right back on script. It was actually very funny to watch. It's very typical Trump, including saying nice things about the media that hates his guts.
And by the way, the news reports, look at all of those big networks. Look at them. They're all here. But every one of them has said this could be the most organized, best run, and most enthusiastic convention of either party that they've ever seen. Every single one. And it's true. It's true, and there's love in the room. There's great love in the room. So I better finish strong, otherwise we'll blow it, and we can't let that happen. Now, this was great. All of the great people that spoke, and everybody hit a home run. I mean, there's not one that I can think of where I said, oh, gee, that wasn't great. Every single person. I refuse to be the only one. Don't do that to me. They're already getting ready. See, I gave him an idea.
When he goes off script, he was so much more lively when he went off script. Now this is what I'm gonna talk through some of this, because this is kind of a lengthy clip. Charlie's like, "Are you sure you want this one?" Yeah, I kind of do, because I wanted you to hear the bouncing back and forth between reading the teleprompter and going off the teleprompter.
On foreign soil, we want them to stay on their soil. Under the Trump administration, if you came in illegally, you were apprehended immediately and you were deported. You went right back. The current administration terminated every single one of those great Trump policies that I put in place to seal the border. I wanted a sealed border. Again, come in, but come in legally. You know how unfair it is? So many people, hundreds of thousands of people, have been working for years to come into our country. And now they see these people pour into our country at levels that are unprecedented. It's so unfair. Now, we're not going to do it. We're not going to stand for it. They suspended wall construction, ended remain in Mexico. We had a policy, remain in Mexico. You think that was easy to get from the Mexican government? But I said, you must give it to us. If you don't give it to us, there will be repercussions, and they gave it to us. But not easy. Canceled our Safe Third agreements. Demolished Title 42, implemented nationwide catch and release. That's catch and release, where we catch them and release them into our country. We catch them and release them into Mexico.
Off the teleprompter.
There's a slight difference. And took 93, this is the previous administration, 93 executive actions to throw open our border to the world. The entire world is pouring into our country because of this very foolish administration. The great
I'm going to stop it there. It goes on, but you get the cadence changes when he's reading the teleprompter to looking at the crowd. He's looking at the crowd. He's enjoying himself. He gets back on the teleprompter, and suddenly it's very subdued and straightforward. And then he's back to off the teleprompter, and he's lively again. And that's the rhythm of an hour and a half or so last night. And everyone's like, oh, it's just, it went too long. David Axelrod on CNN was like, the best thing to happen to Democrats in weeks was Donald Trump going that long and giving that speech. He mentioned Joe Biden once, said he wasn't going to at all, mentioned him once. It wasn't a bad speech, the first half hour of it. People kind of lost interest. But I think that, look, for the crowd that was there, it was a celebratory moment. The man had come within a half an inch of dying, quarter inch of dying on Saturday, and on Thursday, wearing the bandage over his ear that MSNBC is casting aspersions about, suggesting it's a prop and not real. There he is on stage at the RNC accepting the nomination and knowing that he's in the lead. For the first time ever, Donald Trump was in the lead. He's never been ahead in the polling, really. And this year, I played you the clip from Harry Hinton. He's been ahead in the polling the entire time. It's remarkable. What a turn of events. Peggy Noonan has a great piece today in the Wall Street Journal. And she says essentially, my job's to be an umpire. That's kind of how I view mine. I get attacked a lot for being critical of the Republicans, being critical of Trump, but I think my job should be to tell you what I think is good and not good. You can make up your own mind. You can disagree, but spare me the anger over being critical of my side, because I kind of believe in accountability for stuff. This is Peggy Noonan, who wrote some of Reagan's famous speeches. The Republican National Convention, it was stupendous. A triumph in every way, from production through pronounced meaning and ability to reach beyond the tent. It moved me. Madeleine Brahms, speaking of the stabbing death in New York of her son, and District Attorney Alvin Bragg's soft-on-crime response, moved me. The Gold Star families, whose sons and daughters died at the Abbey Gate during the botched withdrawal from Kabul and were later abandoned by the White House, moved me. What love and what an indictment. The convention was wild in the way things are that are alive. Harmeet Dillon covered her hair with a shawl to sing a Sikh prayer. Amber Rose, the beautiful young woman with face tattoos, being cheered for speaking about what it is to support Donald Trump in her media world and why she is willing to pay the price. Sabos Kostenbaum, the Harvard grad suing Harvard for discrimination over its failures after October 7th. J.D. Vance's mother throwing kisses to the crowd as it chanted her name and her son, saying maybe they'll have her 10th anniversary clean and sober in the White House. The citizens were so much more eloquent than the professionals. And, of course, Sean O'Brien, head of the Teamsters, railing against corporate greed to a Republican convention whose delegates warmly applauded. And none of that was even the headline. The headline, this wasn't a divided party. It was a party united. It wasn't only Mr. Trump's party. It was an explicit Trumpian party. We saw something epochal, the finalization and ratification of a change in the essential nature of one of the two major political parties of the world's most powerful nation. It is now a populist, working-class, nationalist party. That is where its sympathies, identification, and affiliation lie. There will be shifts, stops, and accommodations in the future. No party ever has a clear line. History intervenes. But if it is changed, then there will be no going back. This was a party that, at least for a week, could turn the page on its obsessions. Election denialism was out. A post-DEI future was in. Observers noted how joyous the delegates seemed, and they did. It is not only that they believe the assassination attempt and Mr. Trump's response to it, which has entered American political mythology, seemed to confer an air of the mystical and an affirmation of their loyalty. They were also happy because it's settled now, and they won. It really was a happy group of people who seemed very confident of victory. And Donald Trump took the stage last night with an impressive entrance, told the story of being protected by God from a bullet, and sails into history with the longest convention speech ever given by a man on the cusp of returning to the White House after being booted 4 years ago. It really was a remarkable thing to behold all week. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the show, it is an open line Friday, and I want to go to David. Welcome to the show, David.
Hello, Eric.
Hi there.
Thanks for taking my call. I'll listen to you every chance I get. Two comments about two of the speeches. Second comment was about Donald Trump's speech. I thought you nailed it, and more than I could ever analyze. A great job on that. So I'll cut to the chase here. My favorite speech was perhaps the most concise, dramatic, dynamic, and maybe one of the most impactful campaign speeches I've ever heard, perhaps one of the greatest ever. That was Reverend Lorenzo Sewell's address to the campaign when he had everybody on their feet and cheering. I thought it was a great and concise way to focus on who Donald Trump was and why he's with us. I'd appreciate your
okay. So I honestly, I didn't see all of that one, but yeah, you're right. He had the crowd. I got to be honest with you, David. I'm a little disappointed you didn't say Hulk Hogan.
Well, he was a barn burner, but I thought Reverend Sewell had him on the feet, and I would suggest that you watch that in its entirety. And if it won't fit into your program every day, I doubt if it would. You might consider playing it once a week from now till Election Day.
I will go back and I know it wasn't a long speech, but I had family obligations, so I couldn't hear all of it. I got to see how fired up the crowd was, but I promise I will go check it back in its entirety. Yeah, we won't be able to play it, the whole thing. But I got to tell you, as a child of the 80s, I was very fired up to see Hulk Hogan on stage and tearing his shirt off to reveal the Trump Vance logo on the shirt underneath. When I was a kid, we actually had, back in my day, it was WWF. We had WWF wrestlers, including Rowdy Piper and Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Playboy Buddy Rose, come to dinner at our house when we lived in Dubai. We were wrestling fans when I was a kid, so Hulk Hogan was awesome. I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank, also awesome. Old Glory Bank is my bank, and they would love to be your bank. They are a deeply conservative bank, and Old Glory Bank can give you free checking. They can give you free savings. They can give you a real good banking experience. Now, I want you to know that Old Glory Bank is protecting our first responders. If you're a police officer, firefighter, military, or Border Patrol agent, you're what Old Glory Bank calls a protector. And Old Glory Bank, the Pro-America Bank, is honoring protectors with Old Glory Protect, a free $100,000 line of duty death benefit available to Old Glory Bank account holders with direct deposit. That's it. Old Glory Protect is available to all military personnel, including Guard and Reserve, firefighters, including volunteers, police, Border Patrol agents from the beginning. Old Glory Bank's been the bank for first responders, and now they've got Old Glory Protect. The proof is in the protection. Old Glory Protect. Go to oldglorybank.com. Open your account today. Terms and conditions apply at Old Glory Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. It's an open line Friday here at the Eric Erickson Show. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, I want to start with Robert's phone call. Robert, were you affected by the IT outage today?
We were affected at my company, also with our support of the National Power Grid, et cetera, which is very cleverly not being talked about. I work in power plant, nuclear plant repair, and, yep, it matters quite a bit. I think strategically the fact that half of the nation's transportation systems, which is all they're talking about, can be killed by what they claim is a glitch, programming error, and not malware, is an indication that malware and deliberate actions are not only possible, but they are practical, that they really do work. It's like the Chinese export market. They can declare a blockade on 3/4 of the world simply by telling, one phone call to each port and saying, don't load cargo.
Right.
The nationally, ever since the 1803, when Britain blockaded France physically, with ships,
Right.
every nation that has been able to isolate economically its enemies has won. Every battle, every war, battles, sure, they're tactical. But in this case, China can come in and isolate the U.S. by phone calls. If anybody other than Canada tries to send goods to the U.S., that nation, Germany, Belgium, Britain, Algeria, or Nigeria, for its oil exports, says, nope, you're not getting anything either. Right now, easily 3/4 of the material on the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the True Value Hardware, the Target, the Walmarts come out of China. So those shelves would be empty in 2 weeks with nothing there. No way to recover either, because the factories that have to get built to make the stuff that used to be made here can't get built. You don't have.
This really, it's so well said, and thank you for the phone call, because the people's natural reaction to stuff like this is to say, were we hacked? It's understandable. There is now an unintentional recurring theme in the stuff I've been talking about lately about incompetence and how people would sleep better at night thinking there's a conspiracy of evil people than to realize how incompetent everyone has gotten. But between the things we're learning about the Secret Service and their absolute incompetence, and now this CrowdStrike situation, I mean, people have, this has got to be a cover. This must have been a declaration of war from another country. The people are hysterical. And here's what actually happened. CrowdStrike is a company, a publicly traded company that probably going to go out of business after this. They deliver malware and antivirus updates, and they are relied on by a significant portion of the world for computers running Windows. And overnight, CrowdStrike deployed an update, and the update was flawed and began to break computers. Now, the first indication that this was not some nefarious problem is because it affected everybody. The Chinese were affected. The Russians were affected. I bet the Chinese and the Russians wondered if it was an American attack. It affected the Europeans. It affected the Australians. It affected the Brazilians. It affected the Americans. It affected the Canadians. It affected everybody. It affected banks. It affected hospitals. It affected financial markets. It affected IT groups. It affected social media. It affected advertisers. It affected global aviation and shipping. Remarkable. It really is remarkable. Now, what's even more remarkable is that overnight, Microsoft had problems with its Microsoft 360 system and Outlook, its mail system. And then CrowdStrike decided to update its malware and virus protection, and things began to collapse. Delta Airlines, United, American, they all had to halt departures. This is a list of the airlines that were tremendously affected. Delta canceled over 600 flights. American, United, Endeavor, Spirit, KLM, the Dutch airline, Turkish Air, Ryanair, Eurowings, Republic Air, all of them, as of this morning, were still being impacted by it. It's just absolutely a massive technical issue. And to his credit, George Kurtz, who's the CEO of CrowdStrike, came out and said this was not a cyber attack. This was not a security incident. This was a error in pushing out an update, and it's what caused the problem. So it wasn't malware. It wasn't a malicious attack. It wasn't a cybersecurity issue. It was the cybersecurity company pushing out an update that broke everybody's computer. And you know what they're saying right now? The best way to fix it if you're impacted is just to turn off your computer and restart it. Just absolutely wild. This is now for the Wall Street Journal. One of CrowdStrike's main services is called Falcon, which monitors a company's machines for hacking attempts, viruses, and other threats. The Austin, Texas-based company has about 29,000 customers who went public in 2019. CrowdStrike told customers in a status update seen by the Wall Street Journal that the problem was with the software change it had pushed via Falcon out to clients' computers. The company said its engineers had undone the change, but clients would need to use a workaround to download a fix to affected computers. Some affected users may be back up and running soon, but for others it could take weeks depending on the system in use. The fix CrowdStrike has given is quite manual and may be difficult in some cases to deploy at large scale. They're going to have a major liability. Because of the time of day, much of the early impact was felt overseas and pushed people back to a more reliable technology, paper. At Britain's National Health Service, the outage disrupted appointments and patient record systems at most doctor practices, leading to handwritten prescriptions. In India, passengers received handwritten boarding passes for trains and airplanes. In the U.S., 911 and non-emergency call centers were shut down. In New York City, some screens showing subway arrival times weren't working. Amazon's corporate email system appeared to be experiencing issues Friday morning. The company uses Microsoft Outlook for email, and many of the company's employees also use the communications platform Slack. Amazon didn't immediately respond to questions. The financial sector was largely running as usual, but some companies reported issues. Visa said it was aware of reports of people unable to make payments. JP Morgan staff had trouble logging onto computers. Charles Schwab said online systems were unavailable. The president was even briefed. More than 27,000 flights worldwide were delayed, and 2,800 were canceled by mid-morning Friday. United and American asked the FAA overnight to alert their pilots in the air that they were experiencing communication troubles. Several U.S. airlines, including American, Delta, and United, said they were starting to resume flights on Monday or Friday morning, but some cautioned many travelers would experience disruptions Friday into Saturday. Delta initially paused flights because the outage had affected back-end systems that ensure planes are safely dispatched. In Columbus, Ohio, agents for Spirit Airlines handed out paper boarding passes. At Boston's Logan Airport, Tom Fiddle, a 47-year-old teacher from California, remained near an outlet with his phone to wait out the delay, surrounded by a group of fellow passengers. He waited 7 hours to board his flight to Detroit. At Amsterdam, one of Europe's biggest connecting hubs, it was shut down for most of the morning to all arrivals due to issues. Eurocontrol, Europe's air traffic control system, was diverting planes. KLM, Royal Dutch Airlines, suspended most of its operations. The situation played out similarly in Turkey, Hong Kong, and India, where budget carrier SpiceJet reverted to manual check-in and boarding processes. This affected everybody. This affected China. It affected Russia. It affected Europe. It affected the United States. It affected everybody because these engineers at CrowdStrike really screwed up. And to the caller's point, if engineers non-maliciously can screw up something that bad, think about an entity that wishes to screw it up badly. Think about the water facilities that have been hacked. Think about the nuclear power plants. Think about the coal-fired power plants. Think about the electric transmission power grid. Think about your electric cars that are connected to the Internet of Things. Think about your refrigerators that are connected to the Internet for no real reason other than they want you to know it's connected to the Internet and you've got Wi-Fi for reasons unknown. Your TVs, your cell phones. This is the downside of a highly connected world. It makes things more efficient. It makes it possible to do things we could have never done before, but also it opens us up to new threats. Honestly, be real honest with you. I just have this little fantasy concocted in my head. Wouldn't it kind of be neat if the internet went down for a day and all of us had to go outside because we couldn't stare at our reels and our TikToks and our Twitter feeds? Everyone had to make eye contact again and look up from their phones. Wouldn't that be something? I don't know that society would be able to handle it. But I'd be interested to find out, what if the internet went down for a day? I'm intrigued by it. But also, given how much of the internet went down overnight, It would cause global catastrophe if so. We have become wired into an internet, and our systems all depend on computers now. It's wild that doctors were resorting to paper prescriptions. I actually don't know when the last time was I got a paper prescription from a doctor. They put it in the computer and off to the pharmacy it goes. What a wild time to be alive, folks. What a wild time to be alive. And also how much we have adapted and now accommodated and refined our systems and approaches to life based on the internet that really didn't exist 24 years ago the way it does now. And now suddenly it's so ubiquitous as part of our life. When it goes down, it affects us greatly. It's just an amazing thing to realize how interconnected everything is. All right. I want to reset. Take your phone calls when we come back. 877-973-7425. Before I do, I want to put Hillsdale College on your radar. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, there's a donation page for Hillsdale College. They're a nonprofit. Your donation is 100% tax deductible to Hillsdale College. One of the things that Hillsdale is doing, and listen, wait, listen. Y'all are concerned about elementary and secondary education in this country and what's happening with schools. One of the things Hillsdale College is supporting and spreading around the country is a classical education model that schools in the country, public and private schools both, can use. But they depend on donations to help advance their mission. And so if you're looking for a great nonprofit to support, if you're concerned about the decline of education in this country, Hillsdale is a great place to support. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com, you can give a donation to Hillsdale College and support this great nonprofit. It is a fantastic, fantastic cause to support. They spread education resources around the country to public and private partners to do classical education. And if you're not familiar with classical education, my kids are in one of these schools. It is Socratic method. The kids memorize information. They're asked questions about the information. They're taught how to think critically, how to rely on their ability to think and research more than being spoon-fed information from teachers that indoctrinate them. It's a great approach, very, very thoughtful. And Hillsdale College is leading the way, but they need your support. ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You can go support a great institution today. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Going to go to Craig, who's been waiting very patiently. Welcome. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Great.
Well, I had a suggestion for a drinking game during the DNC, but before that, I want to make a prediction about the Party of Democracy, that if they're able to pull off the switcheroo with Biden, that it's not going to be a one-off, that every presidential election, no matter who the voters decide, if later in the game the powers that be don't think that person can win, they're going to keep shuffling the deck till they find someone who can.
Well, I can see why you would say that, but at some point it becomes a matter of they can't. And the reason they can't is because of ballots. You get the candidate's name on the ballot. In most states, but not every state, you can't replace the name. There are some states where when you pick a candidate and tell the state this is our guy, you're not allowed to take that person's name off the ballot unless.
How often do they play by the rules, though?
Well, you can say that, but what about what about Texas? Texas has that rule. Do you think the Republican Secretary of State in Texas, with its 20-plus electoral college votes, is going to say, sorry, we have to go with what the Democrats want as opposed to what our state says? Or Ohio, which is bordering on a swing state. The Ohio Republican Secretary of State, you think if the Democrats come a month before the election and says, hey, we want to swap out our guy, and I mean, the whole reason the Democrats are having their virtual vote before August 7th is because of the Ohio state rule that locks in your candidate on the ballot. Some states, you're right, some states will allow it, but not every state.
I don't know, just knowing them, I mean, they're all about, democracy, and yet they're trying to override it now because they think their guy can't win. But as far as the drinking game goes, basically you have to take a shot every time someone says threat to democracy or Project 2025.
No, we will all die within the first 5 minutes. I mean, we will collectively drive up the price of alcohol and die within 5 minutes if you did that.
Yeah. Oh, and an interesting thing to watch too, because during the Republican convention, everyone was like in high spirits, like a party.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this is going to be like a funeral.
I think everyone's going to be angry, filled with hate and vitriol and frowning, and
well, that's what it is to be on the left these days
great
too.
Comparison.
Yeah, it really is. Craig, thanks for the phone call. You're right, man. If you got to take a shot every time they say threat to democracy or Project 2025, you're dead within 5 minutes. Alcohol poisoning. It's just there's no way around that. 877-973-7425. Happy to take your phone calls, but I don't have much time left in this segment, so just be patient. I will come to you. I do want you to know that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I mentioned earlier, called on the Democrats to stand with Biden. She has now done an Instagram Live. And on her Instagram Live, she referred to Donald Trump as a racist neo-Nazi. Way to tone down the heat after him nearly getting killed last Saturday. But I told you guys the other day, they cannot afford to turn down the heat. It's all they've got left. They have to keep the heat as high as possible to inflame Democrats to get them to turn out, because otherwise they have nothing to turn them out on.